All right, welcome back. Sports Talk continues. Here we go. Third and final hour of the show. Oh, I get to look at UTEP coaches. Finally, I never get to see them, but we're zooming. We're zooming with Kathryn Balogun. We're zooming with Ben Wallis. We are here. We're getting ready to talk a little UTEP soccer and UTEP volleyball. And it's so nice I get to see you guys because I feel like we're actually in the same room, even though we're not. It's okay. It feels good. Coaches, Kathryn, Ben, great to see you both. How are you right now?
Hit it, Kat.
Thanks for having us on first. We appreciate it. I know it's been a while, but it's been a crazy ride the last couple of months. But I think I would speak for both of us when we're really excited to actually be playing some real meaningful games here in the next couple of weeks. So I think we're all looking forward to that, but still understanding that there's a lot of ups and downs that come with it.
A lot of pitfalls. Yeah. Love having us on. Appreciate it, Steve. We always enjoy joining you and talking to the El Paso and Las Cruces folks. And, we're jacked up to get going. We're, everybody's already dealing with their ups and downs and their pitfalls and their successes. And we're just happy to be back in the gym again and looking forward to getting conference play going here in a short amount of time.
Now, Ben, you've got it made. You're in a gym. Weather doesn't bother you. You could care less or couldn't care less how cold it is outside. Kathryn, it's chilly these last couple of days. This is not soccer weather we're talking about here for the Miners, is it?
Yeah, I think it was 2 days ago. The wind and the cold were real fun in the morning, but we have it so much better than most of the country. We really can't complain. Like we're in a really good spot. Some people are just trying to shovel off their fields to be able to get out and play. So really we have just blessings to thank for the fact that we can get out easily. Yes, it might be windy. We actually posted we had a story up and you could literally not hear it because it was just wind. So we took it back down. But it's good just to be back on the field. I think the girls are just embracing that opportunity.
Now, you're both fall sports. So let's talk to the two of you about what the last 4 or 5 months have been like, not just for you and your staff, but for your student athletes as well. So Kathryn, since you just answered for me, you go first. Tell me what it's been like for you and your soccer team as we approach now February and get ready for this season.
I think it's always good. I mean, I can't say it's easy for anybody. No one is looking at this as an easy thing. But I think our girls have really done an amazing job of trying to keep a positive attitude with a lot of unknowns. We're asking young women that aren't even technically adults yet to really step up and handle a lot of other things being thrown at them. And I think they've done a really, really good job. I do think it's harder for our seniors. Like they were like, we should have been done. And we just lost one of our players this week that's a senior to an injury. And there's not a ton we can do about it, but it's really hard to see those situations play out because you want the best for them. You want them to be able to continue, but she's going on to pharmacy school and has great things ahead of her. And so it's just, there's ups and downs of it. We've seen immense amount of team camaraderie and chemistry and just like super supporting each other, which is awesome. But then you have situations like that where you're just like, oh, your heart breaks for them. So it comes with the goods and the bads for sure, but the girls have done a really, really good job over the 4 months and just doing what they can to make it work.
That's awesome. It's good to hear. Coach Wallis, what about you and your volleyball team? How has it been for all of you?
You know, our situation was a little bit different than Kat's and really many of the other volleyball programs in the country in the fall because we were given an opportunity by Jim and by Heather to Heather Wilson, our president, to actually go and pursue some matches in the fall. So we played 7 matches in the fall and 4 of them actually counted. So we trained for a good portion of the fall. We competed. We took our team without a couple of our point scorers because of injury and played several matches, beat a top 25 team and a team in Texas State that won their conference. They went and won the conference tournament, are going to go to the NCAA tournament. So we beat them in San Marcos and played them on national television in front of everybody on ESPN, which is pretty cool. We turned around and played North Texas, who is picked ahead of us in the conference in the rankings, and we beat them in 5 at their place without 2 of our top point scorers. Then we turned around the next day and beat them again in a scrimmage that was a little different. But, we got some opportunities in the fall that were really unique, and they've helped us a lot right now. I feel a lot more comfortable right now training my players because I know a lot more about what they're capable of. And if Kat could take her freshmen and train them for a whole fall and then turn around and play in the spring, she would know a heck of a lot more about her freshmen then than she did normally in our seasons, because all of a sudden we're thrust into playing quickly normally in the fall. So I feel a lot more comfortable about things. Now, that doesn't mean that I feel like I don't sleep any worse at night, because we unfortunately lost 3 of our middles, one to graduation, who decided not to come back in the spring. Mallory Yost, who was one of our top middles last year. She had 300 and something for us. So losing her hurts, but she graduated and wanted to go on with her life, which you could understand. And then one of our young freshmen that was going to be really good. Just mental health has been a big issue because of all this. And it's been a really difficult grasp for some of our players. And I'm sure Kat's had to go through several things that she never had to go through before as a coach that we're going through. So she actually chose to get on a plane and go home just last week. Irbe Lazda, and she could have been a superstar for us as an all freshman team performer potentially, but she's gone. I mean, she just couldn't deal with the rigors and the tough life as a volleyball player and missing going home. And then we had another young lady who transferred to us from Incarnate Word who had the same problems. Like mentally, this has just been so hard on them, and figuring out how to get through school and get through sports and get through quarantine and get through sitting in your dorm room and being on Zooms all the time. So we're down a couple players and our roster is a little smaller. Our depth is a little different, but man, I really like coaching our team. I think we're still going to be really good, Steve. And we're going to get people fits because our chemistry now is much better than it was in the fall. And that's it's sort of like something that coaches talk about in like out of the side of their mouth, like, oh, our chemistry and our culture has got to be so much better. But right now I'm seeing it in our gym that it's much better than it was a year ago. And so that's how our team is different now. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame for us.
Ben Wallis is the head coach for the UTEP volleyball team. Kathryn Balogun is the head coach for the UTEP soccer team. They join us both here on Sports Talk. Now, Ben, you bring up something that's really interesting, and I do want to get Kathryn's thoughts on this too, because we don't talk enough about this. We really don't. We talk about players trying to resume as much of a normalcy as possible as student athletes on the field or on the court. We don't talk about mental health. We just don't. We don't bring it up. And you are around it 24/7 with your student athletes. And Ben, you gave some incredible examples of what that has been like for you and what you've been having to deal with. Kathryn, I'm sure it's the same way with you and your ladies. So let's touch on that for a second, because since we are still in the middle of this pandemic, and last hour we said there's a chance still that as the power has shifted to a new president, a new administration, we could still get a shutdown next month as vaccinations roll out to try to keep, COVID from not spreading anymore. How have the two of you been able to almost serve as a psychologist / psychiatrist and kind of talk to your athletes through the mental side of this, in addition to everything else going on with their classwork and their athletics?
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about mental health. I think it's a taboo in today's society. We say, oh, mental health, well, this and that. And then when it really comes about, you're like, oh, gosh, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do, or how am I going to help this situation or not help this situation, or just different things. And it can be tricky and sometimes uncomfortable, I feel like, as a coach, because you're like, you want to help them, but you don't always have, like, yes, you say psychologists and psychiatrists, but we didn't go to school for that. And so I think there's a lot of times that you want to do the best things, but you don't know what the best things are. So I've been thankful for some of the resources that UTEP has provided, as well as some of my other coaching communities of just, okay, this is what we're doing to help our players kind of manage this. And I think Ben even talked about it way back when in another interview, but really reaching out to coaches, like basketball coaches that are doing this 180, 100, 360 days a year type season most of the time. Like, how do you keep them healthy and mentally in it? And so he spurred me on to reach out to some of the people that I knew and be like, hey, how do you do it? So I think that's helped a lot. But yeah, no amount of preparation prepares you to get a phone call when you think you've done everything right and they say you're in quarantine for 15 days. Like that there's nothing that's going to prepare a kid for that, especially when they've worn their mask, they've done their social distancing, they've washed their hands, they've done everything we asked them to, and then it's like, yeah, you're done. And like, that's devastating. And it's super hard for the players. It's super frustrating for the coaches. Like, you had your whole week plan for what training's going to look like. And then you're like, oh yeah, so we'll just go without 10 players. It's fine. It's no big deal. But yeah, so I think in terms of how we've gone about it, I think we learn, but I think it brings about a lot more compassion for within our team. Even today we were talking about a few girls that are in quarantine currently, again, due to nothing that they could have prevented. But the girls just being like, hey, this girl's really struggling. Like, we need to reach out to her multiple times a day. Like, let's make sure that this is happening. And so it's really awesome to see how the girls know what that's like. And so they have really jumped on board. And then again, I think our athletic trainers have done a really, really good job of trying to connect them with the right people, whether it's, we've had Zoom meetings with nutritionists, Zoom meetings with psychologists, just mental health people. So let's open the conversation. Let's have a dialogue. And it's okay if you need to miss a training session to go talk to someone. Like, that's okay. And I think that is something that if we can take from this pandemic into the rest of our lives, I think we gain a lot there, because I think it does open a lot of doors that maybe at one point might have been cracked, but we really didn't walk through the door of it.
That's a great answer, Ben. It's a terrific response from Kat. Give me your thoughts and kind of build on that as well.
Yeah, I echo a lot of the same things that Kat said. That it's been a learning experience for all of us, and we are psychologists and sociologists in many ways. I mean, I think the best coaches are the ones that necessarily take the psychology and the sociology of your team, and you make sure you're always talking and coaching each other player differently. But the real psychologists and sociologists on our team are the trainers. They're the best ones at it. And Kat alluded to that with hers. And Mindy Hamilton's been great for our players. She's set up more visits to psychologists and to counselors and people like that for self-help and for, exploratory things that they just don't understand what they're going through with this stuff, because it's unprecedented. And, what I think about every night when I close my eyes is, if I'm struggling with this situation, I can't imagine being an 18 to 22-year-old college student who showed up on campus, and none of our freshmen have even walked into a classroom yet, Steve. They won't this semester. So imagine you being an 18-year-old freshman in college and pop into your dorm room and being stuck in your dorm room doing Zoom classes and Microsoft Teams classes and never even meeting a student in a dang classroom. So yeah. The things they're dealing with are so difficult, but they're dealing with them, and that's the reality. So we've got to go play college volleyball games against great opponents and suck it up, learn fast, not make any excuses for ourselves. And that's what we really learned in the fall, because I wasn't pleased with what we did, even though we beat some good teams, at how we ended things in the fall. And now I see some real work that we put in then, mentally, physically, psychologically, paying off now. Our team culture is now starting to show itself to be like, okay, we can survive this and we can get through this and we can actually grow and also get better through this. It's just the way things are now. It's just one more hurdle. But it's a lot of hurdles. Like, you look down the road and there's several hurdles that you got to get over, and you're going to trip on a few of them that we trip on every day,
More with Ben Wallis, more with Kathryn Balogun as we continue here on Sports Talk. But first, let's go to Charlie 1, get ourselves a traffic update. Welcome back. Sports Talk continues. More with Kathryn Balogun and Ben Wallis, the UTEP soccer and volleyball head coaches in our Zoom chat here this hour. We'll be wrapping things up with them at the bottom of the hour. So, but I've been very happy to have both join us together. It's nice to see the two of you back. And I'm excited just because we're getting to see soccer and volleyball, and hopefully we'll get fans. That's the key. And I don't know how the fans will work. I mean, they're having a limited number of fans for men's basketball and women's basketball. So there's hope for volleyball. Kathryn, I would think soccer would be a lot easier because it's an outdoor venue. So even though it has to be spaced out properly, we can at least not have to worry about the indoor confines as outdoors when we go out to University Field to go watch UTEP play.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue for us is the capacity of our actual stadium, because most of the time, like big games, those will fill and then people just rotate around the field, which isn't going to be allowed this year. And so figuring out how many people can be in the stands, how you're going to do that. I think the girls, they want fans. But they also want to be safe. And so I think it's just figuring out how many numbers, there's a distance between the field and how far people have to sit back. And so figuring out where that is in the stands will even limit that a little bit more. But I think UTEP's working on that process so that we can open it up when we have everything going on.
So we talked mental health earlier before the break. What about that extra year of eligibility? When that kicks in, do the two of you expect a lot of your athletes to take advantage and use that, whether it's here or someplace else? Kathryn, let me give you your first opportunity to chime in, then we'll hear from Ben.
Yeah, I think it really depends. Each individual is an individual, because whether it's they want to go on and pursue a degree after this. So we have multiple girls that want to go into dentistry or pharmacy, and there's just not the capacity to do that. But then you have others that were like, well, I didn't really have said plans after this, so yeah, I'll stick around. And then you have the younger ones that they'll watch this whole process play out, and they'll figure out where they want to be. I think for soccer and for females, it's a big thing of injuries. That's going to be ours, is we just have players that their bodies are like, I'm done. And so they'll hang it up whether they have an extra year or not. Then you have other players who it'll be a really good opportunity for them to, if they don't have that really intense master's program, but go get a master's somewhere or stay here and get a master's. So there's a lot of opportunities. And I think it will significantly depend on the individual, whether they're at UTEP for 5 years or they're somewhere else splitting time with another institution with the help of the transfer portal.
Ben, your turn. You've already lost a couple of players that have gone back home due to the circumstances. What about that extra year, and how do you think that'll factor into the future of UTEP volleyball?
Yeah, I agree with Kat. A lot of it's going to depend on the player, and physically, the sport of college volleyball and any sport at this level is really taxing on their bodies. And so by the time they get to be, 4 years through this program, their bodies might not allow for them to play a fifth year, dependent upon the way that physically that they can hold up. If that's the case, if they still have that opportunity, then there's so many neat things for them right now in the world of college volleyball and also beach volleyball that could afford them another degree somewhere, maybe even potentially here. So it's going to be individually based on each kid and what their desires are, what their professional track is. Some of our players want to go play professionally, so they may want to be done with their eligibility and get on to professional sports pretty quickly. So it's gonna just depend on their desires, but also they play a lot. They have a lot of the cards now, which is cool. They have this card, this get out of jail free card, where they get one more year if they want to go finish a degree, start another one, go to another institution to see something else, another part of the country. Whereas it's harder on the coaching staffs now because we have to plan really well for our recruiting classes in 23 and 24 and even in 22, because we have sophomores and juniors and freshmen that will potentially, if you want them to and if they want to, stay and have another year of eligibility. So it's a very interesting, just like everything else on your plate with the pandemic and how you live your life, it's just brand new uncharted territory that we're all going to find some way to screw it up or do a really good job of getting a player for another year. So it's just going to be a coin flip in some ways.
I hear you. Now, you both had very successful first years at UTEP, and I would say outperformed the expectations, at least as far as we were concerned. Maybe not the two of you, but we thought that it would be, a couple years going into it, and you both had good success right out of the gate. You were supposed to play in the fall. Now you're playing in the spring. You've lost some players, dealing with injuries, those kind of things. What should Miner fans expect from UTEP Volleyball and UTEP Soccer here in the spring? Ben, I'll let you go first, then we'll go right back to Kat and get her response.
They're going to expect, and potentially from what we understand, Steve, we're in the works to have fans in our building. We haven't had 100% confirmation yet from our athletic department, but from what I talked to with Jim and Julie about the plans, we're planning to have 50% capacity in our gym, which ends up being about 400 fans, which is a solid number. It's not, we went from almost 9th or 10th in the conference before we got here to 3rd in attendance last year because we have a El Paso crowd that really wants to come cheer us on. They're going to see an exciting brand of volleyball. They're going to see players that are more seasoned and more skilled and that know how to play and know how to win and are looking to compete for conference championships here now, which is great. And we're gonna get people fit. So we got picked 4th in our division this year, and I know that we're gonna outperform that. I know that we're gonna be prepared to move up the ranks and continue to go further and further into the tops of Conference USA.
Coach, I'm excited about that. UTEP Soccer, all right, Coach, let us know what you think is going to happen for the Miners this year.
Yeah, we're really excited. I think the girls come back even stronger. We didn't lose a ton. We did lose 3 seniors, but the majority of our team is back and stronger than it was before. And so I think the only thing that will hold us back is COVID. Outside of that, I think we have a really strong possibility of being, we divided this year Conference USA, split soccer. So we'll play an East and a West, and then we'll go into the tournament with our East and West playing each other from both sides. And so it will be a very different look. We'll only play 6 conference games, so everything matters. There isn't a game you can take off. Last year we didn't play UNT or Rice, which is on our side, 2 very strong teams. But our girls are really excited to get out and show, hey, we're coming for you. Because I think we left the conference tournament last year after playing UNT and saying, we can do this. Like, I think before, like, the coaches were like, we can do this. And now the players are like, we want to do this. And so it's really exciting to see them so excited because it is about their performance on the field. The only thing is I actually won't be around much of it. I actually go into maternity leave sometime in March. So our head coach our assistant coach will take on head coaching responsibilities. So really excited for Stu to get an opportunity. He's a great coach, has done really, really well for us. So Kate and Stu are going to take on all of the responsibilities this year. I'm excited to have a family and start that process and become a coach.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for.
But just show people that you can be a coach and have a family and make this all work, because I think so often women get out of coaching because it's a daunting task. And so we'll make it work some way or another, but I'm really excited for the team, but I kind of feel bad for my coaching staff because I feel like I'm leaving them in like the midst of the craziest year ever. And I'm like, peace, deuces, see y'all later. But they're going to do a really, really good job. I have no doubt about it, and take the team really far. And my goal is just to meet back up with them at conference tournament or senior day right before we head up to Houston and take it all the way.
Ben, give me your best advice before we wrap it up for Kat as she goes into motherhood. What would you like to tell her?
Get as much sleep as you can right now.
That's harder said than done.
You got to sleep right now, dude, because you ain't going to sleep when that baby comes. I'll tell you that much right now. Yep. Get as much sleep as you can. Spend as much time with your hubby as you can, because that goes away too.
Fair enough.
It's true. All right, coaches, terrific stuff. Best of luck this season to both of you, especially you, Kat, because you've got 2 big coaching jobs that you've got coming on this season. That's for sure. And let's keep in touch and get you back on the show real soon. Thank you so much for the time.
You got it, man. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.